think Sling has the potential to be the first billion user financial product. And I think within 5 years, Sling could be that. It's quite easy to sell the vision of Sling. If you ask pretty much anybody, should payments be easier, faster, and cheaper? Everybody says yes. It's not something that I have to sell you on. International payments right now are too slow, too expensive, and they cause a lot of people a lot of grief.
Now, before Sling, you worked at what I'd consider the holy trinity of European startups. You went from Monzo Bank to Spotify, then to Kraken. Walk us through how your career path and those experiences led you to co-founding Sling.
I've sort of always wanted to start something of my own, and all the decisions I made them so that I could get the relevant experience. So at the time that the perfect idea came along, I would have as much of the correct skill set as I possibly could.
I remember there was a $2 incentive for every single download. So you download Sling, you set up your account, and there's $2 in your account waiting for you. I'm curious how impactful this was and what goes into running such a program.
This was incredibly impactful. It was way more impactful than we actually imagined, and I can go into that a bit more about the entire app completely crumbling and falling apart because we have far too many signups. There's a range of ways you can acquire people, and a lot of them cost money. But rather than giving that £20 to Facebook to get in front of users, we say, well, if you sign up for Sling, you get $2. We saw a lot of people trying to sign up simply for the $2. What this gets you, to some degree, is a lot of disengaged users. People are signing up to get the money, not signing up because they think your app is good. We just didn't expect that amount of inbound. And when I say that everything broke, like everything broke from start to finish, we were just not prepared for it. And that's fine. I think if we had been prepared for it, we would have been over-optimized.
Today's guest, co-founder and designer at Sling Money, Simon Amor. Welcome to the pod.
Hey, thank you very much.
Tell us about Sling. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're hoping to solve?
At Sling, we're trying to do one, I think, very simple thing, which is trying to make sending money from one person to another person as fast, easy, and cost efficient as possible. It shouldn't really matter whether they're sat next to you or they're 3,000 miles away. We sort of think the experience should be pretty much the same. This is how basically most technology works nowadays. Everything is sort of trended towards being faster and cheaper and easier. For example, 5, 6, 10 years ago, if you and I wanted to communicate, it would have been maybe like a text message, which would have been, character limit and cost £1 to send. And then now we have WhatsApp, and it's fast and free, and I can send you videos and photos and voice messages. And it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in the office next door to me, or, as you are, far away in Kenya. And we think it's time that money caught up with that. And that's what we're trying to do at Sling.
Yeah, cool stuff. I'm curious, what was the aha moment that led you to co-founding Sling Money?
Yeah, mine and my co-founder Mike Hudak's sort of story, I guess, around why we wanted to do this, or the aha moment, as you mentioned it, are pretty similar. And they both revolve around trying to explore crypto as like an interesting emerging space, and honestly struggling a little bit. Like, the user experience was a bit tricky. You had to buy some coin on this chain and transfer it to that chain, and depending on where or who you wanted to send it to, you then had to ask for this long string of letters and numbers, and you paste that in and you hope it's going to the right place. It's all a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But if you can figure it out, it's very, very powerful. The money arrives instantaneously in the other person's wallet. If you're using Solana, it costs a fraction of a penny. And I think once you experience it, once you get past all the noise and you get past all the complexity, once you experience the underlying core value of it, it's quite clear that this is how things should work. It should be instantaneous. It should be very, very cheap. So when we were exploring this space, we had those aha moments, I guess, around crypto in general. And having worked at a range of companies before in finance, in social, we were like, we think we can make the rest of it easy as well, so that we can get more and more people to experience this aha moment. And it was at that point we were like, cool, well, we can take this amazing technology and we can combine our experience of building beautiful and usable interfaces to, maybe make that a reality.
Okay, so you go from kind of noticing stablecoins and the change that they're bringing. How do you go from identifying that problem to designing and building the product to finally launching? I want you to kind of pull back the curtain for us on what things looked like in the early days.
Yeah, so first up, it was just me and Mike sat in our bedrooms. And we wanted to prove out, I think, a few things before we decided to dedicate our time fully to it. The one thing we wanted to prove out was whether this was technically possible from a compliance perspective, from a licensing perspective, from a technology perspective. Could we build the idea that we had in our minds, which was this beautifully simple P2P payments product? So Mike set out exploring some of the more technical side of things, some of the more compliance side of things, and I set out exploring it from a design perspective. Could we, wrestle this technology into a usable user interface? And we created a deck, and we created some designs and some concepts and some ideas. And then what we did is we took it and we showed it to sort of as many smart people as we possibly could. And we said, do we think that this will work? Do we think that this makes sense? Is this something that you think people want? Do you think that we should try and build this? And the answer was pretty much unanimously yes. All the people we spoke to were saying this is something that will exist in the future. We have no doubt. We've seen all technologies trend towards this ease of use, this decrease in cost, and this increase in speed. And there's no reason to believe why that wouldn't happen with money. So there is a point in time where this will exist. We have no doubt. Is that point of time now? Yes. With this technology, we believe that, we can start working towards that. And with this idea that you two have, and the experience that you have, we believe that, you are the people to try and make this happen, or a set of the people to try and make this happen. So that gave us a bunch of confidence, which was great because, quitting your job and trying to focus full time to build an entirely new payment system on brand new technology is a risk. So, using that time to build up that level of confidence so we can get to the stage where we're like, okay, we're going to do this, was a really, really valuable use of time. Yeah.
I like that you've mentioned quitting your job, and I want to dive a bit deeper into that. Now, before Sling, you worked at what I'd consider the holy trinity of European startups. You went from Monzo Bank to Spotify, then to Kraken. Could you walk us through how your career path and those experiences led you to co-founding Sling?
Yeah, so I've sort of always wanted to start something of my own, not necessarily start a business, but I've always wanted to build something of my own. I've always had this burning desire to create things, had my own ideas and had the goal of, one day doing something that allows me to take those ideas and build them out. So often when deciding what to do in my career, I sort of had that as the long-term goal. And all the decisions I made were there, or I made them so that I could get the relevant experience. So at the time that, the perfect idea came along, or the idea that I thought it was worth, pursuing and spending the rest of my life trying to make happen, I would have as much of the correct skill set as I possibly could. So I started out designing agency side with a company called Potato, and got to work with some truly, truly fantastic clients. Worked with NatWest and Google and a range, and really sort of maybe developed this broad design skill set, visual design, user experience design, as well as I guess a little bit of sales and talking with clients and that sort of stuff. But eventually I found it a little bit dissatisfying getting the product you're building to a stage, it's quite often 0 to 1 work. This isn't like always the case with agencies, but quite a lot often the case was we would do the project from 0 to 1 and then we'd hand it back to the clients. And I sort of felt a little bit dissatisfied with that. I wanted to, do the research on the thing that we'd built, collect the data, and then iterate and improve it. And also feel, I guess, a higher level of ownership of the thing that I was working on. That's, everybody's different, but personally, I didn't feel like a colossal amount of ownership of the projects because we knew that we would always have to hand them off and you move on to the next one. I knew that I wanted to work in mobile. I wanted to work at a really design-focused company to, help improve my design skills. So that's why I applied to go and work at Monzo. Monzo is just an incredible design company. It has incredible design leadership, really, really strong product and design team, and it's probably where I've learned the most in my career. It was fantastic. And watching Monzo grow from the inside, both from a user perspective and from a team perspective, was fascinating. And it's really interesting, all the potholes that companies fall into as they scale, both teams and users. It's unavoidable. You have a team of 2 designers and then suddenly you have a team of 5 designers, and the stuff you're doing when you had a team of 2 designers no longer works when you have a team of 5, and that is the same when you go from 5 to 10 and 10 to 20. So I learned so much there about what it is to sort of I guess build out a design team, build out a product. And at some point I was like, oh, I wonder how some of the biggest companies in the world do this. I see that, I see all these potholes that we fall into here at Monzo when we have 20 designers. I wonder how it works when you have 800 designers. So that's when I went over to Spotify. That was a really, really interesting experience. It's a whole different world working at a very large public company than it is working at a scale up and then again a startup. The amount of time you have to spend on things like your designs is just dramatically increased. The amount of time you can spend on polish and improving the pixels is just catastrophically different, I guess, to what it is when you're working at a startup and you have to ship and iterate a lot faster, a lot more testing heavy. So that was amazing experience as well, working at Spotify and learning from, again, some truly, truly fantastic designers. But again, all with the idea that, eventually I want to start my own thing. And when I do, I want to have the experience of what it is like working at these larger companies and take the good parts of it and the bad parts of it. And then, eventually sort of muddle that into your own idea of starting your own company. I then, obviously after that, I had this opportunity to start this thing with Mike, and was able to, hopefully take a bunch of that experience and hopefully build out Sling in a way, that learns from all of that.
Okay, you're working in a design role. The perfect idea comes along. You talk to some of your smart friends, and they give you the go ahead. So how do you how do you make regular folks see the value in what you're building at Sling?
Yeah. So I think there's 2 aspects of this. How do you sell the vision? And then 2, how do you explain that vision is possible? The second one is, I guess, maybe a little bit different, just because it requires some technical knowledge from both sides or the ability to explain complex problems in a simple fashion. But what I think is interesting about Sling, which sometimes differs from different companies, is it's quite easy to sell the vision of Sling. If you ask pretty much anybody, should payments be easier, faster, and cheaper? Everybody says yes. It's not something that I have to sell you on. It's it's a clear and obvious thing that, international payments right now are too slow, too expensive, and they cause a lot of people a lot of grief when they try and do them. It causes a lot of anxiety. So in some ways, selling Sling is pretty easy. Selling the concept of Sling is pretty easy because I don't have to convince you that thing needs to exist in the world. And it's also a very compelling idea. This thing could be, available to everybody with a smartphone, and maybe people without smartphones in the future. But right now it's available for everybody with a smartphone in almost every country in the world using this technology. And that's one of the beautiful things about Sling is it's a very simple idea, but it's a very big idea. So selling it, I think, is quite an easy task. Building it, on the other hand, is not an easy task. But getting people to buy into that idea, I think, is not particularly tricky, I think.
Yeah. I met you at Latitude 59 last year in December, which was a pretty huge deal for you and the team at Sling. Before we dive into the numbers, I'm curious, why Kenya for your first in-person event?
Yeah, I think the one thing that differs from Sling to maybe other payment providers is we have the ability to go pretty broad, pretty quickly, relatively cost efficiently. So a lot of international payments companies will spend years and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds, figuring out where to go next. Because entering into those markets is very expensive, takes a lot of time, and if you get it wrong, that is a problem. We don't have that issue as much with Sling due to the technology that we're building on. We can enter, and the way that we run our partnerships, we can enter into a lot of markets relatively quickly and relatively cost efficiently. So we had, like you mentioned, like a lot of countries that we're in, and then you have the problem of like picking which one do you double down on or which one do you focus on, because you can't focus on them all. We're a very small team, and we did this twofold. One, and this was all guesswork, by the way. Like, it's obviously educated guesswork, but it's all guesswork to some degree. We looked at where the disparity between where the existing financial system is and what we could provide. So, for example, there are a lot of fantastic payments products in Europe. And therefore, trying to convince people that Sling is better than those payments products for their use case, which might be like, I'm just sending money between my friends sat in Paris, is pretty tricky. There's a lot more work there for us to do to sell Sling. But when you speak to people in other countries, they feel the pain of the existing financial system, I think, a lot more. So we knew that there's a set of countries that we could go to, and Sling, the value of Sling, would be perceived a lot quicker, a lot easier, and the value versus what they already have would be sort of a lot greater. We work with a fantastic company called Tech Safari, and they helped us, formalize some ideas about, where we should try and start building up a community for Sling. And we ended up filming this video where Caleb, who runs Tech Safari, was sat in Kenya, and I was sat in our offices here in Europe, and I sent him, I think it was like $50 or something, and we filmed it, and it went from my bank account to his M-Pesa wallet in 30 seconds, and it was free. And then we posted that video online, and it got a bunch of it got a bunch of feedback, it got a bunch of views, and it got a bunch of love. So it was like an indicator, I guess, that our assumptions that bringing this product to Kenya or to Nairobi would be valuable. There's people here that want to talk about Sling. So that's how we chose to come to Nairobi. There was also already an event going on, the Latitude event that we could come to and help support. So that's how we ended up there in the first place.
So how are you going about localizing the product in each market at such scale?
Yeah, so at the moment, we don't do any localization. Localization takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of research. And as someone who, on a day-to-day basis doesn't feel the pain of money movement in a bunch of countries that I'm not in, I also have to go and learn and figure out what the pain points are there so I can solve them efficiently. And again, that takes a lot of time. We have a theory, I think, that you can build a base product that works exactly the same everywhere. And because it's very simple, it works very, very well in a lot of countries. It might not solve every use case, but we're not trying to solve every use case. We're trying to solve one use case, which is sending money from A to B as easy as possible. And if we create an experience that is beautifully simplistic, incredibly intuitive, we go out and we do the research and we update and we improve based off of people's feedback. We believe that we can make a very generic product that works pretty well absolutely everywhere. Then what we'll do is we'll see where Sling takes off. We can see where we get these pockets of users, and we'll go and talk to them, and we can say, how do we make Sling better for you? And that's when the localization comes in, I think. But we're not at that stage yet. We're still at the broad stage. We're still seeing where Sling does well and why. And once we've done that, then we can consider localization. Then we consider building things for specific markets.
Yeah. I'm curious, what are some, I guess, universal design principles that you're using and implementing at Sling?
Yeah, I think there are some key things. People want to pay people, not numbers. Numbers vary around the world. So like to pay someone in America is different to pay someone in Kenya, to pay someone in Europe. You need a different type of number for each one of those things. And that adds, stress and complexity. If we could just use the thing that we use in every other product, like a username or a regular name, like, this is how Instagram works and Facebook works. And, so why shouldn't it work the same, I guess, for a payments product? I know your name. I should be able to search it and find you. I shouldn't need to know your phone number or your IBAN or your routing number. So that was that was one of the key principles. We wanted it to be, very human focused. Take away some of the formalities, maybe, of historical money transfer. We also have, I guess, a big advantage, which there are already a lot of payments products around the world, and they've already created quite a consistent user experience. So if you look at payments products in Nigeria, they're not dissimilar to payments products in Germany, to payments products in the US. They have their little changes here and there, but broadly, you type in the amount of money you want to send, you choose where you want to send it to, you type in the details of the person you want to send it to, and you hit send. And these are pretty common patterns that we can utilize in Sling, that other people have already done the hard work for us. We obviously build this on top of different technology. We build this on top of the blockchain, but we can utilize, what people call Web 2, I guess, user experience, and then the value of Web 3 combined to make a beautifully smooth, intuitive experience that runs better because it's using the new and updated technology.
I want to take us a few steps back on localizing the product. So you've mentioned that you're not yet at a point where you want to localize for certain markets. And so my question to you is, how are you measuring success in markets and deciding where to double down or where you're going to double down in the future?
Yeah. So at the moment, the way we're measuring success is total transaction volume. So the amount of money moved through the system. We think this is probably a better metric to track than just total overall growth, because it sort of proves, I guess, slightly more that there is a need for the product. A lot of people will sign up to new financial products. They're created every single day, and interested people will sign up to them and take a look around and then put it down and never use it again because it doesn't add any more value to their lives. And quite often, growth is you can buy top of funnel growth if you want to. So if we wanted to pump that top of funnel number, which is just total amount of user growth, we could put a bunch of money behind it and get a bunch of users, and we could say, cool, Sling has 5 million users, great. But if people aren't actually using the product, people aren't actually moving money, then we're not doing our job properly. Equally, what it does is if the existing users are using Sling, and we've proven that the people using it are moving money, when we do decide to refocus on top of funnel growth, we're confident that the people we're bringing in will also use the product. So we're not wasting time and money bringing on disengaged or unengaged users. So total transaction volume is the thing that we care about, because it implies people are signing up and it implies people are using it. And it's also a good metric because you can affect it in multiple ways. If you want total transaction volume to increase, you can either get your existing users to use it more, or you can get more users who then come in and use it as well. So it means you can improve and change that metric in different ways, giving you a lot more flexibility. Oh, cool.
What are you currently focused on?
Maybe at the moment, we're up until now, we've been focused on getting our existing users to use it more, understanding why the people who aren't using it don't use it. People definitely do sign up to Sling and don't use it. So we're trying to understand why. And also understand the existing patterns about why people are using it, why people love it, so that we can then feed that loop back into our marketing or into our product iteration and improve the things that people love. And turns out, people don't want to use it in this way, and people do want to use it in this way. One example here, I think, is, we're a P2P payments product. We market ourselves as sending money from one person to another person as easy as possible. But quite a common use case with Sling is people sending money to themselves. So I have an M-Pesa account because I was in Kenya, and I want to move money from my bank account here to my M-Pesa account. I'm not paying someone else, I'm paying myself.
Yeah.
And that was obviously something we thought might happen, but has become pretty prolific when people are using Sling. So now we think, cool, do we double down on that a little bit more? And it allows us, having that user base that we encourage to use Sling rather than focusing purely on top of funnel growth, allows us to make sure that we're building the correct product for these people.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about financial product is you talked about growth, and it's the network effect, right? If I send you money, I'm gonna tell you to get Sling or hop on Sling, and so the product kind of grows organically. How are you tapping into this, and how are you thinking about network effects?
Yeah, this is a pretty well-timed question, because we've actually just spun up a little growth team within Sling to focus on doubling down on that network effect. I think what's, like you mentioned, the good thing about payments product is they are inherently social. Money is inherently social. We created it so we can interact with other people. Obviously, people hoard money and they want to save money and they want to earn interest on their money, and all that is very, very viable use cases. But the reason money was created is so that I can transfer a amount of wealth to someone else and in return get something back. So when I, as an individual, sign up for Sling and experience the value of it, I am then to some degree compelled to share it with other people so that I can maximize that value. Me sat on Sling by myself, there is a certain amount of value, and maybe that's enough because I can send money between my own accounts in different countries. But it increases, it's valuable for me to share Sling because then the utility of Sling increases and I can send more money to more people and make more savings on fees, or spend less time waiting around for money to arrive, or if I want to send money to you and you don't have Sling, I tell you to get Sling because I don't want to go through the hassle of using one of these legacy payments products. So it's almost selfish in some ways. And then the opposite is also true, which is I know you, I like you, I want you to have that excellent experience as well. So I share it with you so you can improve your money movement system. So there is, I think, an inherent and default level of sharing that goes on in Sling. And then what you want to do is just capture that, make it as easy as possible for users to share with their friends or to share with people, incentivize it, encourage it. What we often find is people love Sling, but it's not crazy common for people to talk about finances. I do it all the time, obviously, because I work in finance. But I guess normal people will go to the pub and they'll talk about football or stuff like that. They don't go, what is the coolest new payments technology that you figured out this week? Even if they have found a great new payments technology, they're that's not the initial conversation that they have with their friends. So how do you encourage people to share it when it may not be top of mind at all times for them, even if it will, benefit them and it'll benefit the people that they share it with?
Yeah. I want to dive a bit deeper into growth, if that's fine with you. Now, part of the Nairobi experience was, I remember there was a $2 incentive for every single download. So you download Sling, you set up your account, and there's $2 in your account waiting for you. I'm curious how impactful this was and what goes into running such a program.
Yeah, so this was incredibly impactful. It was way more impactful than we actually imagined, and I can go into that a bit more about the entire app completely crumbling and falling apart because we have far too many signups based off of what we think was this particular incentive.
Yeah.
You can acquire new users in many ways. There's obviously the natural referral. You've got SEO, getting yourself at the top of search engines. You got ads. There's a range of ways you can acquire people, and a lot of them cost money. For example, if you want to run Facebook ads, you can optimize this down to a certain cost per click or cost per acquisition, but they're quite expensive. One thing I think finance apps have above and beyond just like a classic social app is the ability to sort of directly incentivize users to sign up to the app. So rather than, giving that £20 to Facebook to get in front of users, we say, well, if you sign up for Sling, you get $2. Just to be clear, this is not a promotion that Sling is currently running. If you sign up for Sling right now, you do not get any free money. Just, before people sign up and they say, where is it? This is like a experimentation and testing thing. So yeah, we saw a lot of people trying to sign up simply for the $2. What this gets you, I think, to some degree, is a lot of disengaged users. People are signing up to get the money, not signing up because they think your app is good. Some of them do.
Yeah.
Some of them, get told about it because they get the £2 incentive, and then they do the research and they realize that the app provides a lot of value and it's great, and that's a good way to acquire new people. But a lot of people sign up just for the welcome gift. And then what it is it's our job as designers, as product people, and as engineers to help show them the value of Sling now that they've downloaded it, now that they're in the app, now that they're in the homepage. And that becomes a really interesting design problem. I've signed up not to try your app. I've signed up for this incentive. And now it's our job to say, well, cool, now that you're here, look how amazing Sling is. You can send money, for free over the Solana network. And look how quick and easy that was to sign up. And it integrates directly with your M-Pesa wallet. How smooth is that? And so that they're there and they see the value, and now they go and tell their friends about it as well. Yeah.
Let's rewind a little to I believe it was 2022. You lost your entire seed funding in the Silicon Valley Bank collapse alongside many other startups, and then a few months later, I believe it was 3 months later, there was a FTX collapse. How were you maintaining morale and going forward during this time?
Yeah, so just to be super clear, we didn't lose the funding. It was still there. We just didn't have access to it temporarily.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a dark time for us as a company, absolutely no doubt. And a lot of our partners, the FTX crash obviously put a colossal stain on the reputation of crypto. And being a crypto company, even though we don't class ourselves technically as a crypto company, we still use blockchain technology, and so we were to some degree stained with that poor reputation as well. And a lot of people, it's crypto winter. Solana went down to $8, and no one wanted to build anything on crypto anymore because it was going to die and all this stuff. I think the thing that kept us going, or the morale that you mentioned, was we deeply believed in the technology and that it would create a better product for users. We believe that to our core. We believe that this is a better way to send money. And it doesn't matter, what people are doing in the rest of the crypto ecosystem, I guess. People, making meme coins and NFTs and all these other fantastic things that people, are able to do. It actually doesn't matter what they do. It's actually not related to us because we're not trying to do any of that stuff. We're just trying to make sending money from A to B as quickly and easy as possible. And we believe that the blockchain is the best way to do that. So it was hard. Partnerships became a bit harder. I guess our brand took a hit and we had to sell Sling a little bit harder. And, you're starting from a negative position because the second you say like, cool, we're built on blockchain, people automatically go, isn't that thing that's, full of scams or all this stuff? And you say, some of it is over there, but that's not what we're doing. We're doing this thing. And that is fundamentally different to all that other thing. And we believe that this thing allows you to do, faster, cheaper, and easier payments. And we just stayed hyper focused on that. I think what a lot of startups do is lose focus. And they can do this in two ways. One, crypto winter, everything's gone to zero. There's no point building on this technology anymore. I've lost focus. The other is there's so much going on that I try and do too many things. Let's build an NFT portal in the app and so on and so forth. And one advantage I think we have is keeping the team hyper-focused on that very simplistic thing, which is we want to make sending money from A to B as quickly and easy as possible. And no matter what's going on in the ecosystem around us, whether Bitcoin goes to 1 million or Solana goes to 0, we can still focus on that thing and still make that thing happen.
How long did it take you to bounce back from the funding winter?
Bounce back's like probably the wrong way to put it. Just because at the stage we were at, we were still just early stage building. So I don't think we took like a massive nosedive, for example. Like we didn't lose a bunch of customers or anything like that. We had to do some more work with partners and so on and so forth. But I don't think it was like we took this big dive and then had to recover.
Well, I'm
sat
looking at
down
it
as
this way. I'm looking at the big dive as being the kind of potential to grow has been stagnated, right? It's the growth potential has basically been stopped. So yeah, how long did it take you to go from that to things that then cruising nicely?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't think things are cruising quite nicely. We've got a long way to go. I promise you that. But I think honestly, it's taken until maybe the middle to end of 2024. I think for the industry to
Oh
really have a
wow,
bit of a resurgence.
yeah.
I'm probably getting my timelines mixed up here, so I apologize a little bit. But there was this time when just nothing was happening in crypto. Crypto was dead. And then slowly, things started to rekindle. And then now you've got, PayPal has a stable coin, and Stripe spent $1 billion on Bridge, and Nubank offers stable coins to their customers. And that is really, really exciting for us because it sort of adds a bit of validity to the space, a validity that wasn't there, when we started, because everyone said, "Oh, this whole payment space is dead," and now people can look at it and they can go, "Oh, well, if Stripe's doing it and Nubank's doing it and Revolut does it, maybe there's something to it." And going back to that whole like reputation that we have to fight against, they are helping improve that reputation and improve the respectability, I guess, of this technology, because the technology itself is truly, truly amazing. And they're now seeing that. And when someone like a Stripe comes in and starts building and using it, people sort of perk up and pay a bit more attention to it. And they don't just automatically write it off. So I think now is probably the best time there has ever been to build something on stable coins, because the technology is becoming really, really stable. A lot of people, are very, very excited about it and want to work with it. There's a lot of opportunities to make these products a lot easier than it used to be. So yeah, I think we're sort of maybe entering into the golden age, I guess, of, if you start now, you might even be considered early, which is pretty exciting.
How are you thinking about regulation? Now, stablecoins currently exist in a complex regulatory landscape. How are you navigating this?
We focus on compliance and regulation from day one. A lot of our team, in fact, the majority of the team, has worked in payments products before. Me and Mike met at Monzo Bank. So we knew from the start that this was going to be a huge part of the company. What I think a lot of crypto companies do is they see the technology, they think it's very, very exciting, and they think I can build an amazing crypto product, which they definitely can. And then they get hit with the regulatory side of things, or the legal side of things, or the compliance side of things, or the fin crime side of things. And they're like, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm here, I'm a developer, I'm here to build, here to build an app. But we knew based off of experience that this side of payments was going to be a major, major part of it. And there's no point, I think what you see a lot of these companies do is they go very, very fast and they forget about that side of the company. And then they don't exist in 2 years because, they build out this amazing product, but you can't forget about that side of it because it's just such a vital part of it. So we focused on that from day one. We have an amazing team completely dedicated to it. And we know that if we want to build a product that lasts, it has to be front of mind 24/7. There's no point us doing something that, grows us 1,000,000x and then forgetting about this other thing over here because it's like, cool, now your product doesn't exist. And we're playing the long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And there are sprint phases to it. There are sprint aspects to it. You want to have some sort of first mover's advantage, and being early is definitely a valuable thing to have as a product.
Yeah.
But if you're not thinking about the long term, if you're not thinking about what are we doing next year or the year after, then you won't be around to have those conversations. So yeah, it's primary concern of ours.
Okay, so you climbed to the top of Kenya's Google Play Store. I believe you're number one for quite a while. Pull back the curtain for us. What was it like managing this surge of users, especially for the engineering team?
Yeah, it was. People say like good problems to have, and like that is completely true. Don't get me wrong. Like I wouldn't change it for the world, but there were still big old problems. We were some of the team was at the Latitude event, and we were supposed to be manning the booth, talking to people. I was going up on stage and giving a speech about what it is to build a good product and a product that works and is simple. And at the same time, the app was crumbling because we didn't build it to have that level of scale at the time. We just didn't expect that amount of inbound. And when I say that everything broke, like everything broke from start to finish, we were just not prepared for it. And that's fine. I think if we had been prepared for it, we would have been over optimized. We would have spent too long building systems, which if you'd spoke to me a week before, I would say we're never going to get that amount of load. So you don't want to over optimize. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And there's no point having a product that can, handle 1 million users when you've got 1,000 users. It's no point doing that. So to some degree, it was like relatively unavoidable. But the team worked day and night for I think about 3 or 4 days straight, getting the platform back up and running, communicating with users, apologizing, saying we're really, really sorry. We like really, really appreciate the support. Like, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. And we're really sorry that we can't provide you the experience that you deserve and that we hold ourselves to. But we are working very, very hard to try and get this back up and running for you. Yeah, it was an invigorating time, I think. Like, people often say when you look back on your experiences, the times that are like the toughest are often the times that you look back the most fondly. And at the time you're like, oh gosh, this is terrible. We're getting 5 signups a second, but none of them are getting through. And like, we're getting complaints on Twitter, and I'm doing this event and people are coming up to me being like, show me this app. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, I can't. It currently doesn't work. It doesn't feel like the best time of your life. But looking back at it, it's like, it's a truly, truly incredible experience. And we're so, so grateful, one, for all the support that we got in Kenya. And two, like the patience that people had. I think people came up to me at the event and were like, we get it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, we appreciate what you're trying to do here. Thank you so much for like trying to come in and or trying to solve this problem. Sorry. Let me know when it's back up. I'd love to give it a try and tell my friends about it. So yeah, the support was truly, truly incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it took me about a week to get onboarded from the time I kind of signed up to using the product. It took me about 7 days. So yeah, I definitely felt that. Okay, so what would you do different with your next in-person event or your next Sling Money session?
Yeah, so I mean, now we've obviously built the systems up to handle that load. So that's what we'll do different moving forward. Retrospectively, I wouldn't have done anything different in order to avoid this, because like I mentioned, I think in reality that would have been an over-optimization. It would have been a waste of time. Like, obviously, again, retrospectively, it would have been a great use of time, but like, there's no way we could have known that. But moving forward, obviously, we've spent a lot of time over the past couple of months doing stability work, making sure that this sort of thing, if it happens again, we handle it a lot better. So I'd sort of come in and I'd probably do the same thing, but this time hopefully the app will work, because generally the whole thing was excellent, and I'd love to do it again, but this time with a functioning app.
Okay, so fast forward 5 years, where's Sling?
I think Sling has the potential to be the first billion user financial product. And I think within 5 years, Sling could be that. There could be a Sling wallet on 1 billion phones. And it is the primary way that people use to send money between each other, both domestically, both, me and you go out for a drink and I want to pay you back for it. We could be used for that. But also, sending money around the world. There's a long way to go between here and there. But if you're like, that's where we want to be, that's where we think we can be. There's a lot of exciting things that Sling could do beyond just the P2P payments. And I think what we'll do is we'll go out and we'll talk to our users and we'll say, cool, well, you're using Sling. How are you using it? What can we do to make Sling better? What features would you like us to build in order to, improve your financial life? So I can't tell you what the Sling app looks like in 5 years, because in a lot of ways it's not up to me. It's up to our users to some degree. I'm excited to see where it goes, though, because the entire financial system, I think, over the next 5 years is going to evolve. I think we'll see a lot of companies moving towards stablecoin, both from a business perspective and from a consumer perspective, just because it is a demonstrably better way to move money. And I think once you have a world that is built on a blockchain, the interoperability aspect of that is wild. Like there's less of these closed off ecosystems that you can't interact with. There's a lot of stuff that we just don't know, can't think about yet. That when the entire world is open, and we're using this open technology and money and other things can move very very fast and very cost efficiently. I think it opens up a very interesting, exciting world.
Now, Sling raised a funding round not too long ago. Now I bring this up because funding in Africa can be very constrained to founders. It can take a long time. So can you kind of break down for us what that looked like for Sling? How long did it take you to close your round, and what were the timelines?
I'm very lucky to be building this alongside Mike and to have a co-founder like Mike. He's done this before many times, and I think the experience there is just unbelievably valuable. He's raised multiple rounds before at multiple companies. He's built multiple companies before. He's built multiple products before. He's gone through the challenges in a way that I just haven't. So this is my first time founding a company, and being able to do that alongside someone who has that experience is just an unbelievable learning curve for me. But it's also in some ways kind of like a cheat code. People believe in Mike way more than they would believe in someone like me, I think, doing this for the first time. But it goes back to Sling being an incredibly compelling idea, and one that sort of is very easy and quick to grasp. And that has, again, almost unlimited potential and upside. That's a sort of an idea that VCs are very excited about. The ceiling there is incredibly high. As we spoke about, a billion user financial product is what we're going for. So you have to sort of create that narrative, create that story, and sell Sling. And as we spoke about in this podcast, I think it's I don't want to say easy, but it's a compelling idea that when you sell it, people get it.
Simon, this has been an amazing conversation. It's been exciting to see the potential of stablecoins and global money transfers through your perspective. One last question. Where can listeners find you online if they want to learn more or reach out?
Absolutely, yeah. So me personally, I'm on Twitter. It's Simon R. Amor, my first and last name with the R in the middle. Sling Money is also on Twitter and LinkedIn. If you search for Sling Money, you'll pretty much find us on any type of social media. We also have a Slack community. If you download the app and go into settings, there's a link to the Slack community in there, and also at the bottom of our website, sling.money or slingmoney.com. You can join that. The entire team's on there. You can chat with us, ask us questions, file bug reports, ask for features, or just generally ask us, about Sling. And it's a really nice space to come and hang out and learn more.
I didn't know about the community. One last question, I guess. What went into building that?
Community is a tricky one, I think. Because it's the thing that everyone says you should have when trying to start a company, but it's quite hard to fabricate. It's also trying to build one can sometimes be, I guess, like a little bit cringe. Like it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you sort of have to, start conversations almost artificially to some degree, I guess, when you're like, hey, what do people think about this? And what do people think about that? But it's incredibly important. And I think what went into it was like, cool, we just want a space that people can communicate with us and communicate with each other. We want people to be able to give us feedback on Sling in the easy and most efficient way possible, so that they, don't not do it. Because the more we can hear from our users, the better we can make Sling. That's why we created the Slack channel to start off with. We picked Slack because that's where we hang out internally. How it grows, I couldn't tell you. At some point, it'll be inefficient to use Slack, I assume, and we might move on to something else. Or maybe our community, we have multiple communities, just because you want to try and go and meet people where they are. You want to reduce the barrier, I guess. You don't want to make it an effort to come and talk about Sling. It should be easy. So I don't know how it's going to grow, but I do know that like the community that we have at Sling is vital to us making Sling the product that it is today, and the product that it deserves to be, because it's there to solve problems. It's there to solve people's problems. If you're not listening to people's problems, or you block them out, then you'll probably build the wrong product for people.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you have someone running that full time?
We don't have someone running the community full time. No, we have people who work in our marketing department, and they run it, and we also have Tech Safari who help us run it as well. But we don't have like a dedicated community manager. We might get one at some point. I'm not sure. But right now, what I think is important is it's to some degree everybody in the company's job to participate in that community. Because everybody should be listening to users, everybody should be talking to users, from me and Mike to the backend developers, to front-end developers, to the operations people. Like everybody should be as close to users as they possibly can be, and that's just one way that we can do that.
Got you. Thank you again, Simon, for coming on and taking the time.
No worries, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Cheers.